The sun was already low when the human walked into the strange alien village. His boots were torn, his clothes dirty, and his throat dry from wandering for days. The air here smelled different, sharp with spices and smoke. Small houses made from clay and strange shining stone lined the narrow paths. Alien children stopped their games and stared at him with wide, unblinking eyes. Their skin glowed faintly under the fading light, and some whispered to each other as if they had been waiting for this moment. The human felt every step was being watched. He pulled his jacket tighter and tried to look calm, though inside his chest his heart was beating hard. He was used to being ignored on other worlds, treated like a weak outsider. But here, the silence around him was too heavy, too exact. It felt like walking into a play where everyone already knew their lines, except him. At the center of the village, a crowd was gathering. The human was offered a seat by two tall aliens whose arms were marked with red tattoos. Their faces looked kind, but their eyes did not. He sat anyway, because there was nowhere else to go. Soon, an elder appeared. She was tall, wrapped in a robe of black and gold threads. Her eyes glowed silver in the dusk, and her voice was deep but smooth. "You have come at last," she said, not asking, only stating. The human frowned. "I don't know what you mean. I just stumbled here. I was looking for water, food maybe." The elder smiled, but it was not the smile of kindness. It was the smile of someone who knew something hidden. Water, yes. Food, yes. But more than that, you seek a purpose. And we have a job for you. The villagers clapped softly, almost like a ritual. The human's skin prickled. He had taken jobs before, cleaning, fixing machines, even carrying heavy loads, but the way she said it sent a cold shiver down his spine. "What kind of job?" he asked, trying to sound steady. "Tomorrow," the elder said, raising a hand, "all will be revealed. For now, you must rest." He was led to a small hut on the edge of the village. Inside, it was warm and strangely comfortable. A fire pit glowed, and a bed of woven leaves waited for him. The human ate the food they placed in front of him. It was sweet, almost too sweet, and it left his stomach uneasy. He lay down, but sleep did not come easily. Outside, the night air was filled with voices. At first, it sounded like songs, but the more he listened, the more he realized they were not songs at all. They were whispers, carrying words he did not understand. But there was one word that repeated again and again in a low chant that crawled under his skin. He sat up, listening hard. His heart raced when he recognized it. They were saying a word close to his own name. They should not have known it. He had never spoken it aloud since stepping into the village. He pushed aside the curtain and peeked out. Groups of aliens moved together in the torchlight, some bowing toward the temple at the village center. Others pointed toward his hut. Their faces glowed in the firelight, half in shadow, half in strange devotion. The human stepped back quickly. His hands were shaking now. He had felt trapped before, on ships where he worked for little pay, on stations where no one respected him. But this was different. This was not just work. This was something planned long before he arrived. He tried to tell himself he could leave in the morning. But when he checked the edge of the village earlier, he had seen guards, two huge figures standing with spears taller than himself. Their eyes had followed him without blinking. The path out had not been open then, and it would not be open tomorrow. The human sat against the wall, staring at the flicker of fire. Every small sound outside made him jump. He thought of home, of Earth, of simple jobs that felt heavy at the time, but now seemed easy compared to this. What kind of job would make an entire village wait for a single traveler? Why him? The fire burned lower. His eyes grew heavy, but every time he closed them, he saw silver eyes, gold robes, and smiles that did not belong to kindness. He heard the chant again, louder now in his head. Tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. By the time he drifted into shallow sleep, he knew one thing for certain. Whatever job they had chosen for him, it would not be like any job he had taken before. It would be something that could either make him more than he ever was, or end him by morning. The sun rose slowly over the alien village, painting the sky in strange colors, purple and gold that did not exist on Earth. The human opened his eyes to the sound of drums echoing across the huts. His body was stiff from the uneasy sleep, and his mind heavy with the memory of whispers that had carried his name. He stepped outside, squinting against the bright light. The entire village was awake already, standing in lines, waiting. and they were waiting for him. Two guards appeared at his side without a word. Their skin shimmered with markings that looked alive, pulsing faintly as if blood glowed under their flesh. Each carried a long spear carved from black stone. They gestured for him to follow. He thought about running, but he already knew there was no escape. Every path out of the village was watched. So he followed, his boots crunching against the dust. The villagers whispered as he passed. Some bowed their heads, others touched their chests in a strange salute. Children peeked from behind their mothers, staring at him like he was not a man, but a creature from stories. He wanted to shout at them, demand answers, but his voice stuck in his throat. They reached the center of the village where the elder stood waiting. She looked the same as last night, tall, cold, her robe flowing like smoke around her body. In front of her rose a massive structure. It was taller than any tree, its walls black with carvings of beasts and symbols he could not read. The temple loomed like it had grown out of the earth itself. The human froze. The air around the temple was colder, heavy, as if it carried the weight of centuries. The elder's silver eyes fixed on him. "Today your job begins," she said, her voice calm, almost gentle, but with an edge sharp enough to cut. He forced himself to speak. "What kind of job is this? I never agreed to anything." The elder tilted her head, her smile empty. "It does not matter if you agreed. You were chosen long before you arrived. Humans have always been the ones who can complete the trial. And now it is your turn." The human's chest tightened. "Trial?" he asked. The elder raised her hand. The drums stopped. The crowd grew silent. "You will enter the temple," she said. "You will survive the night inside. If you live, you will belong to us. If you fail, the temple will keep you." The villagers bowed as one, chanting softly in unison. The sound shook him more than the words themselves. It was not joy, not sadness. It was ritual. This had happened before. Many times. Fear pressed against his ribs, but he clenched his fists. Why me? Why a human? The elder's silver eyes glowed brighter. Because only humans can wake what sleeps inside, and only humans can fight it. The guards stepped closer, their spears lowered slightly, not touching him, but close enough to warn him. The human swallowed hard. He wanted to scream that he was no warrior, that he had never fought for anyone, not even himself. But the words died on his tongue. Every villager was watching. He knew there was no choice. The elder pointed to the great doors of the temple. "Enter and prove your worth." The human looked at the doors. They were carved with images of creatures with too many eyes and mouths full of sharp teeth. Chains as thick as his arm held the doors shut. Slowly, the villagers pulled them open with a sound like thunder. Darkness spilled out, heavy and thick. It smelled of stone, old blood, and something that made his stomach twist. He stepped forward. Each step felt heavier than the last, like walking into a grave. The villagers parted to let him through, their faces calm, but their eyes hungry. He felt their hope, their excitement. He was entertainment, sacrifice, and savior all at once. At the edge of the temple, he hesitated. He thought of turning back, of fighting his way out, but one look at the guards told him how fast that would end. The spears were already pointed at his back. The elder spoke again. "When the sun rises again, we will open the doors. If you walk out alive, you will take your place. If not..." She let the silence finish her words. The human stared into the blackness. His mouth was dry, his hands shaking, but deep inside a spark flickered. He had been underestimated all his life. On stations, on ships, in villages like this. Everyone thought humans were weak, soft, too fragile to matter. Maybe that was why they had chosen him. Maybe they expected him to die. He stepped inside. The doors slammed shut behind him with a sound like the sky breaking. He stood in total darkness. For a long moment, there was only his breath and the pounding of his heart. Then, from somewhere deep in the shadows, came the sound of movement. Slow, heavy, dragging, the sound of something alive. The human clenched his fists tighter. Whatever job they had given him, whatever trial this was, he knew one thing. He could not let them see him die. Not here, not like this. The human stood in the dark temple, his back against the cold stone wall. The air was thick, smelling of dust, metal, and something rotten. He could not see far, but he could hear. Every sound echoed too loudly, every breath felt stolen. His heart thumped so hard it seemed to wake the silence around him. Then came the first whisper. It was faint, carried through the dark like a wind that did not exist. A voice said his name. Soft, almost kind. His eyes widened. He had never told the villagers his real name, yet it was spoken here, inside this place. His hands shook as he whispered back, "Who's there?" No answer came, only the slow scrape of claws across stone. The human forced himself to move. His boots crunched against broken tiles as he searched blindly. His fingers brushed the wall, tracing carvings that felt sharp and alive. Some showed battles, humans drawn beside beasts. Others showed humans lying broken at their feet. His throat grew tight. He realized this was not the first time his kind had been brought here. The sound came again, footsteps, heavy and wet, dragging closer. He reached down, grabbing a shard of stone that had broken from the wall. It was not much, but it felt better than empty hands. The dark seemed endless, but then he noticed faint light glowing from cracks in the floor. A pale green shine, like veins carrying poison beneath the stone. It gave him just enough sight to see shadows moving ahead. Not one shadow, many. Shapes crawled along the walls and ceiling, their bodies twisted, their limbs too long. Their eyes glowed faint yellow, circling him like predators testing prey. He took a step back, then another. His breath came faster. He could fight one, maybe, but not dozens. He had to think. On Earth, humans had survived beasts much larger than themselves. They had no claws, no fangs, no scales. But they had fire, traps, and stubborn will. He forced himself to breathe slower. "I can't fight them head on," he muttered. "But maybe I don't have to." He scanned the room. His eyes caught a pile of old wood near the wall, rotten but dry. He remembered the torch in the elder's hand, the way the villagers had carried fire like it was sacred. Maybe they feared it. Maybe the things here feared it too. He dropped to his knees and began striking the stone shard against the floor, sparks flying weakly. Again and again, until at last a small flame caught on a strip of his torn sleeve. He blew gently, feeding it. The fire grew, catching on the wood. The shadows hissed at once. The yellow eyes pulled back, blinking against the sudden light. Their bodies writhed in the dark, retreating just enough to give him space. The human stood tall now, the torch burning in his grip. Fear still lived in him, but fire gave him strength. The whispers grew louder, angry now, many voices speaking at once in a language he could not understand. The ground trembled. From deeper inside the temple, something larger moved. The air grew heavier, the shadows scattering as if giving way. The human felt his mouth go dry. A roar shook the chamber. Dust rained from the ceiling as stone cracked. Out of the far darkness, a beast stepped forward. Its body was covered in scars that glowed faintly, like wounds that never healed. Its arms were thick as tree trunks, claws dragging lines across the stone. Its head lowered, two eyes burning red like hot coals. The smaller creatures scattered away, leaving only the human, the torch, and the monster. The human's legs wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. The doors behind him were sealed with chains. He had no weapon but fire and stone. The beast growled, each breath hot enough to make the air shimmer. It lunged. The human dived aside just in time, rolling across the floor. The beast's claws smashed the ground where he had stood, breaking tiles and shaking the walls. He scrambled up, swinging the torch wildly. Flames lit the scars on the monster's body, revealing cracks in its skin like broken armor. The human's mind raced. The beast was strong, faster than him, but it was not unbreakable. Those cracks meant weakness. The monster turned, furious, charging again. The human dodged, leading it toward one of the great stone pillars holding the ceiling. At the last moment, he ducked aside. The beast's body slammed into the pillar, cracking it. Dust exploded into the air. The human coughed but smiled grimly. He had an idea now. He waved the torch, shouting, trying to make himself louder than his own fear. "Come on! Over here!" The beast roared, its eyes burning brighter, chasing him again. Each time he moved just fast enough, leading it into another pillar, another crack, another weakness in the temple itself. The ceiling groaned, stones shifting above. But the game was dangerous. His arms burned from holding the torch. His legs screamed with pain as he dodged again and again. Once, the beast's claw grazed his back, tearing cloth and skin. Hot blood ran down, but he kept moving. He had no choice. At last, 3 pillars were broken, leaning under the weight of the ceiling. The beast pounded its chest, roaring in fury. The human knew he could not last much longer. He looked at the last pillar and tightened his grip. With all the strength left in him, he taunted the beast, waving fire in its face. The monster lunged, claws outstretched, its roar shaking the chamber. The human dived low, rolling under it. The beast slammed into the last pillar. A crack thundered through the temple. The ceiling groaned, then began to fall. The human stumbled to his feet, panting, blood dripping down his arm. Stones crashed around him, the beast trapped under rubble, roaring in pain. The human backed away, the torch flickering in his hand, his body trembling but alive. He had survived, for now. But as the dust cleared, he saw something that froze his blood. The beast was still moving, and deeper in the shadows, more red eyes began to open. The dust filled his lungs as the stones kept falling, and the human staggered back with the torch raised high. The beast roared under the rubble, its body half buried, yet its claws still tore at the ground. Every sound was sharp, the grinding stone, the creature's rage, and his own heartbeat pounding like a drum inside his chest. He thought the fight was over, but then more eyes opened in the dark. Not yellow this time. Red, glowing deeper, brighter. They blinked one after another, spreading along the walls and ceiling like stars coming alive. His grip on the torch tightened. His legs trembled, but he refused to drop it. The rubble shifted, and the beast dragged itself free, its body broken but not destroyed. Scars on its chest split wider, leaking strange black smoke. Its roar shook the walls, but the other red eyes did not move. They watched. They waited. The human realized this was the true test. The beast was not alone. It was the first, the hunter sent to break him. If he fell here, the rest would finish what it started. His chest burned from lack of air. His back throbbed with pain where the claw had cut him, yet he forced himself to stand straight. If he showed weakness now, it was over. The beast lowered its head and charged again. Its steps were slower than before, but its power had not faded. The human knew he could not bring down another pillar. Too many had already collapsed. The ceiling groaned, but still held. He needed another plan. Something fast. Something final. He backed away, eyes darting across the room. The cracks in the floor still glowed faint green. Smoke rose from them in thin streams, carrying a smell like burning metal. His mind raced. Fire had worked before. Maybe fire would work again, but stronger. The beast lunged. He rolled aside, pain stabbing his side. The torch slipped from his hand, almost going out as it hit the floor. Desperate, he grabbed it again, pressing the fire against the cracks in the ground. The green glow pulsed brighter, heat rising, the stone trembling under his hand. The beast stopped for a moment, sniffing the air. It sensed danger. The human shouted, voice breaking, and slammed the torch down. Flames hissed as they touched the glowing crack. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the ground erupted. A burst of green fire shot upward, lighting the entire chamber in a sickly blaze. The beast screamed as the flames wrapped around its body. Its skin split wider, its scars glowing like molten iron. It thrashed wildly, knocking stones aside, smashing the walls. The red eyes blinked faster now, but none of them moved to help. They only watched as the beast burned. The human stumbled back, shielding his face from the heat. His skin stung, sweat poured down his face, but he did not look away. The monster's body collapsed at last, its roar fading into silence. The flames died slowly, leaving only smoke and the smell of ash. He fell to his knees, his body shaking. His breath came ragged, each inhale a knife in his chest. The torch was gone now, broken in the fire. Darkness returned, heavier than before. Yet the red eyes remained, unblinking. Then one of them spoke. The voice was not like the elder's calm tone or the villager's whispers. It was deeper, layered, as if many voices spoke together. The sound came from inside his head, not his ears. "Human, you have killed our guardian." His jaw clenched. He looked around, searching for a shape behind the eyes, but there was nothing, only shadows that seemed alive. "I didn't choose this," he said through gritted teeth. "You forced me." The voices echoed in his skull, cold and amused. "Forced? No, chosen, always chosen. The job is yours, and now you cannot turn away." He tried to stand, but his legs nearly gave out. "I'm leaving," he spat. The red eyes glowed brighter, and the stone floor trembled. "Leave? You are already bound. When the doors open, you will not be free. You will carry us. You will carry the burden of what you killed." The human's fists clenched. His whole life, people had treated him as weak, replaceable. Now, even in this alien place, he was trapped in someone else's game. He thought of running again, but the truth pressed against him. There was nowhere left to go. Slowly, The red eyes began to fade, one by one, until only silence remained. The chamber grew still. He was alone with the broken body of the beast and the ruins around him. Hours passed. He could not tell if it was day or night outside. He sat in the dark, shivering, blood drying on his back. His mind replayed the whispers, the voices, the promise that he was bound. The job. Always the job. At last, light pierced the cracks of the great doors. Chains rattled, stone ground against stone. The doors creaked open, spilling sunlight into the chamber. He squinted, lifting a hand to shield his eyes. The villagers stood waiting. Their faces glowed with expectation. The elder stepped forward, her silver eyes brighter than ever. "He lives," she said, her voice rising with pride. The crowd erupted in cheers, chanting his name like victory. The human staggered out, each step heavy, his body barely holding together. He wanted to shout at them, to tell them what he had seen, but his throat was dry. His words stuck. They wrapped him in robes of deep red, placed a crown of bones on his head. The elder raised his hand to the sky. "You are chosen," she declared. "From this day, you are ours." The human stomach twisted. He looked at the cheering villagers, their eyes full of devotion, and realized the truth. The fight inside the temple had not been the end. It had only been the beginning. The human stood in the middle of the crowd, his body wrapped in heavy red robes. The weight of the crown pressed on his head, bones clicking softly with every movement. The villagers chanted his name, their voices rising like thunder across the square. He should have felt proud, victorious after surviving the temple, but instead, he felt cold. Every cheer sounded less like celebration and more like chains locking tighter around his neck. The elder raised her staff, silencing the crowd. Her silver eyes shone with strange fire as she spoke. "He has proven himself. He has faced the guardian and lived. He is now our protector, our strength, our chosen." The villagers bowed deeply. Some even knelt before him, hands pressed against the ground. The human's stomach twisted. He had never wanted this. He had only wanted water, food, and a place to rest. Now they treated him like a hero, but he could see the truth behind their smiles. He was not free. Two guards stepped forward, guiding him toward a stone throne at the edge of the square. The throne was carved from black rock, marked with the same symbols he had seen inside the temple. He resisted at first, but the guards' spears pressed close to his ribs, and he had no choice but to sit. The elder placed a bowl before him, filled with strange glowing fruit. "Eat, chosen. Tonight, you begin your duty." The human looked at the food. It smelled sweet, almost too sweet, the same way it had the night before. He picked up one piece, but did not eat it. His stomach was still tight with unease. He glanced around. The villagers were watching closely, waiting for him to obey. He put the fruit back and said nothing. The elder's smile never faltered, but her eyes hardened. "You must keep your strength. The role is not simple. You are more than human now. You are ours." Whispers spread through the crowd. "Ours, ours, ours." The word echoed until it felt like the whole village was pressing down on him. As night fell, they led him to a larger hut near the temple. It was richly decorated, filled with soft bedding and golden lamps. Offerings lined the walls, jars of food, carved figures, even necklaces of polished bone. He had more wealth now than he ever had in his life, but it meant nothing. The door shut behind him and guards stood outside. He sat in silence, staring at the gifts. He tried to convince himself that survival was enough. He was alive. He could play their game for a while, maybe find a chance to escape. But the memory of the voices inside the temple haunted him. "You are bound." Later that night, the door creaked open. Two young villagers stepped inside, a girl and her younger brother. Their eyes were wide, their hands trembling as they approached him. The girl bowed low. "Chosen, please forgive us. We must tell you the truth." The human sat forward. "What truth?" The boy's voice shook. "Every chosen before you, they died. The village praises them, gives them gifts, but then the elder drains them. Their blood, their life, it feeds the village, keeps us alive." The human's chest tightened. He remembered the beast's scars, the red eyes in the dark, the voices speaking in his mind. "Drains them?" he repeated. The girl nodded quickly, tears in her eyes. "The elder says it is our tradition that a human must suffer for us. Without the sacrifice, the village will wither." The boy clutched her arm. "But we don't want you to die. We saw you fight. We saw you live. You don't belong in this cage." The human leaned back, his hands gripping the arms of the throne-like chair. The cheers from earlier now felt poisonous. Every bow, every gift, every smile had been a lie. He was not their protector. He was their prisoner, their sacrifice waiting to be drained. His jaw clenched. Why tell me this? The girl's eyes flicked toward the door, fear sharp in her expression. Because you might be different. No one has ever fought the Guardian the way you did. Maybe you can end it. Maybe you can break the circle. The human looked down at his torn hands, still scarred from the fight in the temple. He had survived only because he refused to give in. If what they said was true, his survival was not the victory the villagers pretended it to be. It was only the beginning of a slower death. He stood, pacing the room. If I refuse? If I try to leave? The boy shook his head. They will not let you. The guards, the elder, they will keep you here until the ritual begins. You are already marked. The girl pulled a small knife from her belt and pressed it into his hand. Use this when the time comes. Don't trust anyone outside this room. The human closed his fingers around the knife. It was small, but sharp, its handle warm from her grip. He looked at the siblings, their faces pale with fear, but lit with hope. He whispered, "If what you say is true, then tomorrow everything changes." The girl nodded quickly and pulled her brother toward the door. "We will help if we can, but be careful. They are always watching." When they left, silence filled the room again. The human sat back down, the knife hidden under his robe. His mind burned with anger. The elder's words rang in his head, "You are ours." He looked at the offerings, the crown, the rich bed. None of it mattered. They thought he was their sacrifice. They thought he was weak enough to bend to their law. But they had made one mistake. They had given the job to a human. And humans did not always play by the rules. The night stretched long, but the human did not sleep. He sat in the dim hut, the knife hidden under his robe, his thoughts burning hotter than the lamps on the walls. Outside, the guards shifted, their spears clinking against the stone floor. Every now and then, he heard the chant of villagers still awake, whispering his name like a prayer. It was not worship. It was hunger. He stared at the crown of bones resting on the table beside him. To them, it was a symbol of honor. To him, it was a collar, a reminder that he was trapped in a role he never asked for. His body ached from the temple, his wounds still raw, but his mind was sharp. He thought of the siblings, their frightened eyes, their warning. He thought of the elder's silver stare and her calm voice that hid poison. The truth was clear now. He was not their protector. He was their sacrifice. When dawn touched the village, the door opened and the elder herself entered. The guards bowed low as she stepped inside. Her robe shimmered in the light, her staff tapping against the ground with every step. She smiled at him, the same cold smile as before. "You wear the weight of the job well," she said softly. "But today, your true duty begins." The human did not answer. He held his head high, but his hand slipped closer to the knife under his robe. The elder circled him slowly, her silver eyes never blinking. "You wonder why we chose you. Why a human? Do you not see? Your kind survives where others fall. Fragile, yes. Weak, yes. But stubborn. You do not die when you should. That is why the temple takes only humans. That is why you are here." Her words cut like blades. He clenched his jaw but stayed silent. She leaned closer, whispering near his ear. "You are not here to rule. You are here to give your life, your strength, your blood. When the ritual begins tonight, the village will drink from you. You will keep us alive for another season." The human's stomach turned, but he did not let fear show on his face. Instead, he forced a smile, small and sharp. "And if I refuse?" The elder's eyes flashed. "There is no refusal. You belong to us. The temple has marked you." She turned, her robe flowing behind her, and walked toward the door. Before leaving, she spoke without looking back. "Prepare yourself. Tonight, you fulfill your purpose." The door closed, the guards returned, and silence swallowed the room. The human's hand tightened around the knife until his knuckles turned white. His heart raced, not from fear, but from decision. If tonight was the ritual, then tonight would also be the fight. As the day passed, villagers came with more gifts, bowls of fruit, jars of drink, carved statues. They laid them at his feet, bowing, whispering prayers. To them, he was already half a god, half a corpse. He pretended to accept, nodding quietly, hiding his thoughts behind a mask of calm. Inside, every gift piled higher like a firewood stack waiting to burn. When night fell again, drums echoed across the village. The guards entered, motioning for him to rise. His robe was replaced with one of black, stitched with red thread. They placed the crown back on his head, its weight pressing harder than ever. The human walked between them, his steps slow, his hand hidden inside the robe, gripping the knife. The villagers gathered in the square, torches raised high, faces glowing in the firelight. Their voices joined in a deep chant, repeating his name again and again. At the center, the elder waited by a stone altar carved with spirals that glowed faint green, the same color as the cracks in the temple floor. The human's chest tightened. He knew this place was made for sacrifice. He could almost hear the screams of those who had stood here before him. The guards pushed him forward until he stood before the altar. The elder lifted her staff, her silver eyes blazing. The chosen has survived the guardian. Now he gives himself for us. Tonight, we drink his strength, and tomorrow, we live. The villagers roared with approval. The human stood still, the knife pressed against his palm. He could feel the heat of the fire, the smell of blood in the air, even before it was spilled. The elder raised a bowl, stepping closer, her hand reaching for him. That was when he moved. His hand shot out, the knife flashing in the firelight. He grabbed the elder's wrist and pressed the blade against her throat. The crowd gasped. The chant broke into chaos, guards rushing forward. "Stay back," the human shouted, his voice sharp as steel. For the first time since arriving, the villagers heard him not as prey, not as sacrifice, but as a man ready to fight. The elder's eyes widened, but even with the blade at her neck, her smile returned. "Do you think you can escape?" she whispered. The human's grip tightened, his arms steady. "I'm not here to escape. I'm here to end this." The guards froze, waiting for her command. The villagers murmured, fear spreading among them. For the first time, their certainty cracked. The human pulled the elder closer, the blade pressing harder. "No more sacrifices," he growled. "If I die tonight, so does she." The elder's silver eyes glowed, but for the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed her face. The human felt it, the shift in the air, the moment when power changed hands. He was not their chosen anymore. He was their threat. And the night had only just begun. The elder stood frozen, the sharp edge of the knife pressed against her throat. The human's arm was steady, though his heart pounded like thunder in his chest. The crowd that had once cheered his name now stood in silence, their chants cut short, their torches flickering as fear spread across the square. The guards hesitated, their spears raised but unmoving, waiting for her command. "Tell them," the human growled, his voice low but carrying across the gathering. "Tell them what you do to every chosen. Tell them the truth." The elder's silver eyes narrowed. Even with a blade at her neck, her smile tried to return, but it faltered under the pressure of the knife. Blood glistened where the edge had pricked her skin. "They already know," she whispered. "It is tradition. It is survival." The villagers stirred, uneasy, their whispers rising like a wave. The human's eyes scanned their faces. He saw doubt in them now, confusion breaking through their devotion. The siblings who had warned him stood at the edge of the crowd, their faces pale, but their eyes burning with hope. He pressed the knife harder. "Survival? You drain your own strength by killing every chosen who saves you. You feed on sacrifice and call it life. But I'm not giving you mine." The guards finally moved, but the elder lifted her hand slightly, stopping them. Her voice was calm, but carried sharp edges. "You think you can break what has always been? The temple demands blood. If not yours, then theirs." She tilted her chin toward the villagers. "Without the ritual, the curse will fall. The crops will rot. The beasts will return. Do you want their blood on your hands?" The human's jaw tightened. He could feel the weight of her words pressing on the villagers, their fear rising again. But he refused to be trapped by it. "Maybe you fooled them for years. But I saw the temple. I saw the eyes. You don't feed them for survival. You feed them to keep your power." Gasps spread through the crowd. The elder's smile finally broke, her expression twisting into anger. She tried to pull away, but the blade held her still. "You know nothing of this place, human." He leaned closer, his voice a whisper only she could hear. "Maybe, but I know this. Humans don't break easy, and we don't stay slaves." With one swift motion, he spun her around, using her as a shield as he stepped back toward the altar. The guards shifted uneasily, spears raised but unable to strike without risking their elder. The villagers murmured louder, their chants turning into arguments, some shouting for blood, others calling for truth. The siblings pushed forward, their voices high, shouting for him. Listen, he speaks the truth. The elder feeds on the chosen. She lies to you all. The crowd wavered. Fear cracked into anger, and anger spread like fire. For the first time, the humans saw division in their perfect unity. The elder hissed, her voice sharp. Fools, without me, you are nothing. Without the sacrifice, you all die. The human raised the knife higher. His voice roared across the square. Then let me choose. No more sacrifices. No more chains. If you want survival, fight for it yourselves. The square erupted. Some villagers dropped to their knees in fear. Others shouted in rebellion. The guards tried to push through, but the siblings led others to block them. The crowd, once bound by ritual, now turned into chaos. The human knew this was his only chance. He shoved the elder forward, sending her stumbling into the altar. Before the guards could react, he leapt down the steps, shoving through the crowd. The siblings were there, pulling him toward the edge of the square. This way, the girl shouted, her voice trembling but strong. They ran through the narrow paths of the village, torches swinging behind them as shouts and chaos filled the night. The guards were coming, but so were villagers, some chasing, others fighting each other. The elder's screams echoed above it all, her silver eyes burning in fury as she shouted for his blood. The human's lungs burned, every wound screaming with pain. But he did not stop. He had been pushed into their trial, their game, their chains, but he had torn the script apart. He was no longer their chosen. He was free, even if only for this moment. At the edge of the village, the guards closed in, their spears glinting in the firelight. The siblings clung to him, fear in their eyes. For a heartbeat, it seemed the end had come. But the human raised the knife, his stance firm. He would not bow. He would not give them his blood. If this was the end, it would be on his terms. The guards hesitated, their eyes flicking between him and the chaos still raging behind. Villagers were breaking, some fighting the guards themselves, others tearing down the banners of the elder. The perfect control of the village had shattered. The human's voice carried once more, steady despite the storm. You wanted a chosen. Well, you got one, and I choose my own fate. The villagers froze, his words sinking deep into them. The guards lowered their spears slowly, uncertainty breaking their loyalty. The elder's voice still screamed in the distance, but now it sounded weaker, drowned by the roar of her own people turning against her. The siblings gripped his arms. Together, they stepped beyond the last line of huts into the darkness of the open land. The human did not look back. He had entered the village a wanderer, desperate for food and water. He left it a defier of gods, a breaker of chains. Behind him, the village burned with its own fear and fury. Ahead of him stretched the unknown. But he smiled faintly through the blood and dust because for the first time since stepping into their world, his path was truly his own.